Okay, Sean's here. It's 7 o'clock. Can we okay, you are streaming.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. It's 7 o'clock. I'm going to call this Board of Ed meeting to order. I will be chairing today because Jonathan cannot be here. So I hope everyone's really kind to me and we can get this done quickly. If you could all unmute yourself and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America, and the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for justice and
liberty and justice for all.
And justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. The first order on the agenda is comments from the public. Do we have anybody signed up?
Yes, so good evening. As a kind reminder, you will have 3 minutes for public comment. Please state your name and address before going forward. First public comment is Stacy.
Hi, can you hear and see me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, my name is Stacy Gifford. I live at 45 Old Washington Road. I have 2 girls in kindergarten and 2nd grade at Branchville Elementary School, and thank you for taking my question. So I was wondering, given the number of snow days that we've had this year, and also the fact that now we're facing potentially going into the last week of June for school, if the board is considering either shortening or eliminating February break for the 2023 school year. And I guess the case I would make for at least considering that is this is the first year we've had February break, so it was kind of an experiment. So I think it's worth reassessing and potentially doing a reflection on that. So, you know, I recognize that February break is valuable in that it allows families to, you know, avoid missed school in February if they go on vacations, if kids have sports, they can take a break in February versus having conflicts in April. But I was wondering, you know, have we looked at the numbers in terms of how many families would be affected by this in February versus how many families are going to be affected now in June if we go into the last week? Because a lot of families have planned, you know, like camps and things like that. Also with the extended day in April, there's going to be a lot of families impacted by that. So it's kind of all a trade-off. And I'm just wondering, you know, have we looked at the numbers for that? Have we asked the teachers how they feel about it? And I'm also wondering, can we accomplish this with something similar to what Newtown does, where they have a Monday, Tuesday, February break versus a full week, which would give us a little bit more of a buffer. And then the last point I want to make is just that there's a lot less childcare available in February versus summer. As a working parent, I only really was able to find one option at Woodcock in February, and they had 24 slots available versus, you know, like dozens of camps in June. So that's my statement. Thank you. Thanks for taking my question.
Thank
you, Stacey.
Anyone else, Rachel?
No, not at this time, Tina.
Okay. Thank you, Stacy. And if you stay on, Stacy, I know Dr. De Silva is going to be addressing this. It's part of her agenda coming up, calendars. So if you just listen on to the meeting, hopefully some of your questions will be answered.
Okay, thank you.
Moving on to the chairman report. You know, we had the Board of Selectmen meeting, which seems forever ago, but it was on the 2nd of March. I personally, on behalf of Jonathan and myself, I just want to thank, I think we had almost the entire board except 2 members present there. So thank you for staying for the entire meeting. Thank you for supporting this budget. So thank you. This was Jonathan's exact words, so I'm going to quote them. He said he thinks it went really well, though they accidentally suggested a non-binding recommendation of 4% instead of the 4.79. So I wanted to make sure I got his quote in. That's just a quick report, and the rest he will give when he's here. Dr. De Silva, on to you.
All right, thank you, Tina, and good evening, everyone.
I had the great pleasure of meeting a number of youths while we actually, from the Boys and Girls Club, as you know, they select a Youth of the Year each year. What I really want to share, and I interviewed the candidates alongside the first selectman and a few others, and I have to tell you how impressed I was meeting these students. All, I think with the exception of one, were from our high school. They were confident, articulate, thoughtful. Their stories were just amazing. And certainly that's a reflection on them. And I think a reflection on the club. And so I just want to take a moment to commend them. I know that they have a great ceremony Friday night where the Youth of the Year will be recognized. But for all of those individuals, I was very proud to be a part of that. This is the second year in a row. Worth every bit of time that we spent with them. So that's that. And congratulations to all of those students. We have our Board of Education room. I know some of our families are anxious for us to be in public, and I just wanted to give a quick update on that. I wish Wes was here to articulate it better than I could, but the supply shortage just became even more significant. We heard recently that inventory that we were expected to receive is now on a 200-day backlog for some things, not to say that it was all of our things, but some of them. So in order to get back into the Board of Education, into public, we're likely going to have to issue it. And so hopefully we can do that shortly after April break. It won't be exactly what we would hope for, but it's going to have to be issued because we really don't know how soon we're going to be able to get into a public meeting if we actually wait for every single item to come in. So that's just an update there quickly. The bridge extension, Ms. Gillette couldn't be here tonight, but I had one job, which was to make sure that families knew that March 28th, John Mansfield, you can just share the screen quickly. March 28th, we will be opening registration for all of our programs. This is actually just our pre-K through fourth grade newsletter here, but all of our registrations will open. We have a great opportunity for our fifth graders and our eighth graders with a moving up extension. Intensives are back. So March 28th for those families that are listening, and we'll be communicating out, of course, but you'll be able to register beginning at noon on March 28th. And I think that is it for me tonight. We have a lot of exciting things happening this evening. Most importantly, 3 presentations from our high school. So I won't keep you and we can transition over.
Great, thank you. Moving to committee chairs and liaison reports. Any committee updates? Rachel?
Sure. Thank you, Tina. So the policy committee met on 3-1. We'll have discussion later this evening on 2 policies coming before you. We also had further discussion on policy 5141.3, health assessments and oral health assessments. And that will go back to committee one more time before coming to the full board for a first read. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Amy?
Oh, was I not even on mute? I'm sorry if you all been hearing me coughing. I met with the PTA, and the PTA, I informed them of any upcoming dates for the BOE and also the important budget meetings. I encouraged them to email me with any questions or concerns that they had or have. And Dr. De Silva was also attending the meeting, and so they were able to directly ask her any questions, and she answered them, including any concerns that they had about the budget.
Thank you. Liz?
Legislative perspective, although I wasn't able to personally attend, CABE did do a day on the Hill on March 8th and presented a whole slew of legislation affecting our educational funding and programs. A few to watch, although the legislative session is still going through, I believe, the 16th, have House and Senate sessions still. There is significant recommendations around our educational cost sharing and the way that works. There is a whole bunch of bills around implementing recommendations for from the State Department of Education that's non-specific, and there's several others. I would encourage the community to read through each of those and make your perspectives known to our local representatives. There are things around curriculum, there are things around public health and the role of schools in such public health, and certainly quite a bit that have already passed around settlement agreements that will impact Ridgefield, although they're for Sheff and O'Neill, which is primarily a case from Hartford around school equivalent school access. So just, pay attention to these. It'd be my recommendation to the community, and reach out to your local representatives, because each one of these will impact both our funding and our curriculum freedom.
Thank you. Just to add to Liz's point, me and Rachel did attend the CABE on the Hill virtual meeting, and the public education hearing is on March 18th via Zoom. For now, it's scheduled at 11 o'clock, just additional information for anyone who's listening. And yes, there were a lot of bills addressed. There are links on the page, so please, everybody can go there and check them out. Any other updates from committee chairs or liaisons? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Next is RHS. Ansh, I just saw you.
Yeah, thank you, Tina. And good evening, everybody. I hope that you guys are enjoying this change of scenery. I'm actually tuning in from school right now because as we speak, the Ridgefield boys basketball team is playing their state quarterfinal game against Windsor. So I'm excited to get back into there. But in fact, while we were on the subject, RHS athletics have been absolutely killing it lately, which is definitely rubbing off on the student spirits as they walk through the halls. I see some of our very own students here. So, hey guys, I hope you guys could agree with that. Anyways, our boys basketball team won the FCAC championship in an electric game against Wilton last week and are making a run for the state championship. The boys hockey team also brought home an FCAC championship and also made it quite far in the state playoffs. So congratulations to them. Additionally, the Ridgefield track squad finished 5th in the nation for both boys and the girls teams, with 8 of our own students earning All-American recognitions. The Ridgefield dance team not only won the state competition, but also the New England regionals. And finally, the Ridgefield swim team placed 2nd in their state finals. So congrats to all of these amazing athletes. I may be a bit biased, but geez, I have to say that this year of sports may be one of the best that we've seen in Ridgefield history. All these victories combined with the warm and sunny days have really lifted everyone's mood. Additionally, on top of athletics, the RHS Visual and Performing Arts Theater completely outdid themselves last Friday night when they performed the musical comedy Spelling Bee. Overall, the bounce back year has been going great, and I can't wait for what's to come. We have a lot in store for the students, so stay tuned for that. And yeah, it's a quick one, but thank you all for your ears tonight, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you, Ansh. And having an RHS kid myself, I can share in the enthusiasm. You have no idea how happy and how disappointed he was to miss the game, one of the games. Susie knows. It was tough to find the tickets, but I'm so glad the kids are so happy and all are doing great. Moving on, NEA representative. Oh, there you are, Mary Ellen.
Hi, how are you? Well, hopefully we had our last blast of winter last week. We are all done with it. As Ange said, we're ready for spring, but hopefully we can look forward to the next month with our students without weather interrupting all our days together. So we have a nice chunk of time over the next few weeks. So we're really excited. Currently, NEAR is running the Stuff the Bus food drive event, and we're going to run it through Wednesday, March 16th. So the food drive is to support the Boys and Girls Club. Already mentioned this evening is such a wonderful place that supports our community. As educators, we support our students throughout the school day, and Boys and Girls Club continues to support them after school and throughout the summer through all their great programs. They work behind the scenes to provide support for our kids by providing snacks and lunches. They also provide pantry items for some of our families. So the food donations can be placed in each of our schools. There's a box all around each school. And thank you to Dr. De Silva and to First Student for working with us to providing a bus to pick up the donations on Wednesday. And we're really excited to have that stuffed bus deliver to the club on Wednesday. And they're really excited that we chose to partner with them. So we're really looking forward to bringing it all to them on Wednesday. As we move out of the pandemic stage, our school communities are still managing the effects of the pandemic. CEA did survey teachers, and they found that 74% of educators have had to fill in for colleagues or take on other duties due to staff shortages. 80% of members report that unfilled job openings have led to more work obligations for the educators that remain. 90% of members feel that burnout is a serious problem. And 91% state that pandemic-related stress is a serious problem for educators. So while we're really fortunate to work in a super supportive community, we're not excluded from some of these issues that came up in the survey. But in recognizing this, NEAR partnered with RPS to offer mental health first aid training to our members this past Thursday. As teachers, we offer tools to add, give our students tools to add to their toolbox so they can learn. And this training helps give our teachers some tools to add to their toolbox so they can help support someone they may see struggling with mental health issues and connect them with the appropriate resources and support. The day was very successful and it was well attended. The interest in the workshop among our members was overwhelming. I think so many of us recognize this is such a huge need. While the day was intense, it was extremely valuable, and we're hoping to be able to continue a partnership with RPS around supporting the well-being of our entire school community. As the budget process continues, we are going to continue to support the budget as all these conversations now move to the Board of Finance. So we will continue to advocate in support of the budget over these next few weeks. And lastly, we are very glad that these COVID cases have stayed low, especially after February break. And the biggest thing we're grateful for is to see all the faces of our students, to see the smiles, the faces of our colleagues has just brought a whole new life to our buildings again. And it's been really great. So that is what we will end with. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Kim, you're up.
We have a lot tonight. Our PTAs are excited to share all the amazing things they've been working on over the past month. They've been hard at work showing teachers how much they're loved and appreciated. For Valentine's Day, Scotland PTA sponsored a breakfast for their teachers, and Farmingville provided hot chocolate cocoa bar, and they left notes on their teachers' doors. Eastridge teachers and staff are receiving a St. Patrick's Day treat in the form of a heartfelt bookmark stating, "Educators are like four-leaf clovers, hard to find, but lucky to have." And they have a candy bar taking place to celebrate the holiday. Scottsridge Middle School funded a mini grant to pay for food and games during their first ever India Day. And at Barlow, their PTA has approved close to 30 mini grants to support their teachers and staff. Socially, PTAs have been busy with the winter social for the students and Spirit Week coming up at Eastridge. VP has started rehearsals for the variety show for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders in anticipation of their March 31st event. Farmingville has their parent gala scheduled for March 18th, and Barlow has just scheduled their event for the end of May. Our PTAs have been supporting our students with enhanced learning opportunities. Scotland students had Keeler Tavern visiting their 4th grade students, Mad Science visiting their 2nd grade students, and author Lori Keller came to speak with their K through 3rd grade students. FES just had a visit from the Play Space Pirates this month. Read Across America starts this month, and our PTAs are getting students excited. Ridgebury has author Sarah Weeks coming, and their readathon is underway. VP has their readathon bingo fundraiser in coordination with the school's March Madness reading program. Barlow began distributing their prizes to students who participated in their readathon, and Branchville's Compassion and Diversity Committee is providing Branchville families with picture books to read and discuss, featuring a variety of American stories. Books selected for each grade level will be rotated through classes and sent home with students. VP and Ridgebury also successfully completed their PTA-sponsored Invention Convention, and Ridgebury will be sending 2 students to the state competition. Farmingville Invention Convention was rescheduled for March 14th. At Scotland, Lorna Seidel, a social emotional expert and educator, held a session for parents titled Raising Emotionally Intelligent Children. She then visited all their classes with a hands-on workshop to help children navigate social and emotional challenges. And on March 23rd, Branchville is hosting a discussion on social media and the elementary student, Dr. Rachel Mann, a Branchville parent, professor, and researcher, will lead a discussion about social media's influence on the elementary child's brain. And Branchville's second parent-child book club, facilitated by Principal Margulies and PTA co-president Angela Rice, will begin at the end of the month. In celebration of Black History Month, VP purchased The Life of Ruby Bridges in celebration and delivered books to each student in the school. To celebrate diversity, Barlow's PTA is supporting Awareness Week with a gift of books and art materials for school-wide reading and a collaborative art project. Scotland's Awareness Week consists of each class receiving a picture book with parent volunteers to read and discuss these stories. Parents and students created videos to share their diversity story, and the PTA provided art supplies to create a diversity quilt where students shared what makes them unique. Finally, our PTAs are always trying to help in the community. Scotland raised $250 for Meals on Wheels with a heart-shaped pizza kit fundraiser from Planet Pizza. They decorated bags for Meals on Wheels, and they are sponsoring a Bottle to Beauty art night along with the 5th grade student council, with the proceeds from the event going towards helping to build a well in Sudan. Farmingville's Kids Care Group will be making cards for patients in the hospital, and Barlow's PTA had their monthly Takeout Thursday, in which they help to advertise for local restaurants while earning back funds for their PTA. And that's what's happening in our PTAs.
Thank you, Kim. So much good stuff happening. Thank you so much for sharing. And it's so important the community hears that parents are so involved in this process. So thank you. Moving on, at least to my favorite part of this meeting, student highlights.
So let me begin just by thanking the board actually at our retreat this year. I think it was Rachel that brought up one of the topics of having some of our students come and share out the good work that's happening in our schools, and of course, just on their particular teams or their extracurriculars. So tonight we have a little vignette between our mock trial team. We have a representative from our robotics team and a representative from our musical performance, the Putnam County Spelling Bee, to share a few highlights of the work that they're doing. Dr. Greenwood, I don't know if you want to share any more before they jump right in, but we're excited to have them.
Yeah, I just want to thank them. So we definitely pulled the kids together and said, 15 minutes, show us all the great stuff you do outside the classroom. And so I just want to start by thanking them. It was nice for me to talk to them this week, pull everything together, and a couple of teachers here as well, giving up some time to be here. Mr. Murphy here and Mrs. Gabe is here as well. So I wanted to say thank you to them. But like Anch, I can hear I don't know if you can hear, but there's 1,000 people in the gym behind me. So I'm going to stop talking because I'm going to let them go because I'm going to get over there after. So without further ado, I think we're starting with robotics.
All right, so yeah, I'm Shane, by the way, Shane Miller, and this is the Ridgefield Robotics Club. I've been just this 1 year, but I've also taken it as a class for freshman year and sophomore year. I did robotics 1 and 2.
Hi, I'm Heather Wallace. I've been in the club for 3 years now, and I'm also co-vice president, and I've taken robotics 1 as the class.
I'm David Diacri. This is my first year taking Robotics Club, but I have taken 2 years of robotics classes.
All right, yeah, we can go to the next slide now. So right here, we just wanted to give you some basic details on the club. Some of you probably didn't even know we had one. We do have saying our 5 individual teams, and what that means is each one has their own robot that they each have to design and build, and this is actually totaling to over 30 members in the club, and this is actually up 2 clubs from last year. We did have 3 last year from what I've heard, because I guess it's my first year, but right, so it's all one club, and we've competed actually in 5 competitions since September, I believe we started. Was the start of the season. And our first one was actually hosted here at RHS. You can see we have some pictures here from the gym, and it was a great event. And then 3 of our teams actually qualified to regionals, which was in Massachusetts, and that was just last week. And if you want to change the slide as well, we have a little collage, some more photos from regionals, from the other events we've had. But yeah, so it's we've definitely gotten more people to do it. And like I was saying, you don't have to be in the class. There are classes, Robotics 1 and 2, which would definitely be helpful to understand and know, but you don't have to actually be in the class in order to take it, or in order to be in the club, because you can still gain the skills and things you need to know from just being with other people and learning from them. Moving on to the next slide. This year's competition, it's actually different each year, the goal or the style of the competition. This year's is called Tipping Point. It's because they have two elevators you can see on the left and right. They're elevators, and you want to get either the robot or the goals on that elevator. You'll get more points, but essentially you'll get a certain amount of points for bringing the bases over to your side, or bringing those purple Pringles onto your side and putting them in the goals, and you'll get even more for balancing them. And different robots are designed to do different things. So you pretty much have to, that going into that, and you can look at this game, which is what we did from the beginning. We saw it. We're like, what would be a good way to design a robot to score the most points? And so that's why you have a totally different variety of different kinds of robots. And it's really fun, really, just to start from scratch pretty much. And we had to do an engineering notebook and track our progress. And additionally, if you see, there's actually 2 robots per side. You're paired randomly with another group or alliance, and we'll get more into this later. But you have to think on your feet, like how you're going to work well with them. And so it's really a great experience. And but yeah, so that's the game. And Heather, yeah, you can change.
All right, so like. All right, so like Shane said, we have 5 fantastic teams that we compete with. And each of these robots pictured here, as well as the robot on my other screen, if you could see that, are examples of what we've done so far. So 877Z has equipped with a lift for moving the bases. As you can see, there's one right on there, the little red thing. And that's really helpful because that will, when elevated on the teeter-totters or the seesaws, there's a lot of different terms for these things, will score a good amount of points for each team. 877K, which is my robot here at my house that I've kind of been driving around, has a conveyor for the little purple rings that kind of sucks them up and then scores them in a goal one at a time. 877W has a claw for grabbing some of the goals as well, pictured there on the left. 877J has a hook system for lifting bases onto the seesaw, kind of like K does, a little hook right there. And then 877H is a more defensive robot with a unique drivetrain, which is like kind of what the wheels and basic frame of the robot is. They actually have wheels on the back, which is not something that you see every day. And some notable awards that we've won in the past couple of years have been the 2018 Sportsmanship Award by 877H, the 2019 Judges Award by 877J, and in 2021, this year, the Sportsmanship and Think Awards by 877K. And the Think Award is awarded for programming and also documentation of your programming. So what a lot of judges look for is, did you not only make some massive changes and improve upon your design, but did you document that design and show the process of beginning to end? So, yeah. David, you can go and please change the slide.
Are we on mute?
David, we can't hear you.
Oh, my mute. God dang it. My thing was down. Yeah, so I'll just restart then. So on the left, you can see the code. That's from my group. That's a screenshot of a good portion of the code. And it shows how our robot works and functions. And basically, we learn how to make it. And on the right, you can see the changes that we learn how to solve problems with interesting solutions by slowly over time designing new ways to create our robots and stuff like that. We also learn how we were talking about the notebooks and how we keep codes. I have a picture here of in the middle of 877K's notebook. I didn't get the pages. My thing wasn't working well when I was trying to get all the stuff up on email, but that is the cover of it. And yeah, it's to collect all of our data over time. And the most important thing though is that we learn how to improve our work and how to cooperate with others. And that's really it for the learning part.
How'd you pick the name, David, for the team, Loch Ness?
That wasn't my team. I'm 877W. That's Kay's work. Yeah.
So actually, I do know the story about that one. So by complete coincidence, 877K is a new team this year. We increased from 3 teams to 5 teams from last year to this year. And I think the good majority of new members on Team K had K as the first letter of their name. So that's kind of how they picked up the K letter. And then there's actually a pretty significant trend of these robots being named after mythical monsters. So Nessie and Loch Ness just kind of seemed
Got it.
But essentially, that's all we have. Like you say, if there's any other questions, you guys can ask them. But and we just want to thank the opportunity to be able to present this to you guys, and also to SLO. Some funding going on. We do need the money to go on the trips, and also any volunteers that help. So yeah, thank you.
Shane, Heather, and David, and these kids are versatile in so many ways. I learned tonight that Shane is also a part of our performing arts, our performing arts Putnam Spelling Bee as well. So obviously very busy. But just, I think it's important for everyone to understand what comes to life with our budget. And this is just one example of how the work that the Board of Education and the administration does in order to bring money to all of you so that you can support the programs, not just during the day, but the extracurriculars. So I think this is just one fine example. All right.
Really cool, guys. Thanks for presenting. Really great work.
Does anybody else on the board want to comment? Sorry, Susie, very quickly, if anybody else wanted to just, well, Rachel, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank, Heather, David, and Shane. Again, I mean, your presentation, it was wonderful, it was informative, and it was inspiring. And I think it's wonderful for the Board of Education to see, but also the community at large. So happy to support you guys and keep doing what you're doing. It was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. I think she said it best. Moving on to the next.
Your Honors, opposing counsel, members of the jury, my name is Harsha Chauhan, and I, alongside my co-counsel, will be representing Mia Rapinoe by and through her mother, Casey Rapinoe. Mia Rapinoe was a talented, college-bound soccer player with aspirations to be an Olympic star. She thrived on the Mark Twain Magnet High School soccer team and even made the premier team at the Rubicon Soccer Club. She was a young woman at the top of her class with a bright future ahead of her. However, on December 6, 2019, all of Mia's accomplishments and hard work came crashing down. Board of Education members, it is my pleasure to be here tonight to share a little bit about mock trial. As you just heard, my name is Harsha Chauhan, and I'm a senior at Ridgefield High School and one of the captains of the mock trial team this year. What you just heard was a fraction of my 5-minute opening statement delivered at the Connecticut State Mock Trial Competition this past month. But what I delivered today started all the way back in September. Mock trial hits the ground running almost simultaneously with the start of the school year. We have auditions and interviews starting in the second week of school, sometimes the first week of school. And Civics First, the governing body of Connecticut mock trial, releases our yearly case by mid-September. This year, as you can see, it was a civil case of Mia Rapinoe versus Shannon Dempsey and the Rubicon Soccer Club, a case handling concussions, negligence, and many other intricate duty of care facts. And it is by this deadline that our teams must be selected, each with 6 attorneys, 6 witnesses, timekeepers, and understudies, totaling to about 26 students in the program. And with teams selected, we dive into over 80 pages of case law, affidavits, and exhibits. But this packet that we're given is just the beginning, as lawyers and witnesses then team up to write lines of questioning known as direct and cross examinations to further their case theory for their side, either plaintiff or defense. Members of the team who are assigned as witnesses use acting skills and embody the character they represent, memorizing their written testimony and preparing answers to tough cross questions. If we go to the next slide, the picture on the bottom right here shows my fellow team member and co-captain Sabrina Porter portraying Casey Rapinoe, the mother of the severely concussed young woman Mia Rapinoe, who is the plaintiff of this year's case. Sabrina even shed a few tears at our last competition to fully encapsulate her role as a grieving mother on the stand. Lawyers, on the other hand, practice objecting and must memorize the Connecticut rules of evidence. We practice 4 to 6 hours as a team, not including the late night FaceTime calls with your lawyer or witness for just that extra bit of practice time. But it's in this setting with constructive criticism, also known as tough love in mock trial, that true progress and development is made, building argumentation and public speaking skills prior to our state competition. And what would normally be a bus ride to a courthouse in Stamford filled with nerves, last minute practicing, and maybe the occasional karaoke break was instead replaced with, for the last 2 years, with seemingly endless Zoom trials lasting from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. But during these long hours, performing and taking notes while sitting at home, the resilience of each member on the team is fully demonstrated, adapting to last minute changes, loss of internet connectivity, and the endless delays, as mock trial time does not follow the same clock as the rest of the world. Regardless, the strength of the team shines even brighter this year. The Ridgefield White team is ranked #1 in Connecticut among over 50 other schools in the state, and will move on to the state competition next month on April 5th at the Connecticut Supreme Court. This time, it will be an in-person trial before a 3 to 5 judge panel against Kingswood Oxford of West Hartford. The time and work put into mock trial during the past few months truly did pay off, and I couldn't be happier in my final year on mock trial and at Ridgefield High School to have the white team move on and represent our town. Of course, I cannot talk about mock trial without talking about our incredible advisor, Ms. Gabay, who is here tonight. Ms. Gabay's mock trial insight and all-encompassing knowledge about law is what has made the program so successful at Ridgefield High School, and I cannot thank her enough for the countless Thursday nights and Sunday afternoons she has given up to teach us, guide us, and support us in any way possible. For me, mock trial has opened so many doors. Working with like-minded individuals and students from all grades to hone my argumentation skills was extremely beneficial in my English classes throughout high school. Mock trial alongside courses like law and justice and government and politics offered at the high school also caused my curiosity about law to peak. Next year, I plan on studying political science on a pre-law track, hoping to continue my experiences from high school and build on them further. And I even plan to compete in mock trial on the collegiate level. Our senior night was just last week, which was a bittersweet moment as I said goodbye to a big part of my life for the past 4 years. But I know that this is not the end of my opportunities in the field, and also not the end of mock trial, as it now lies in the hands of the next class of seniors and captains with Ms. Gabay by their side. So I appreciate your time tonight and getting to share a little bit about mock trial with you all. And I hope you'll be rooting alongside me for the Ridgefield White team as they compete in the state championship early next month. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out or ask them now.
Thank you, Harsha. That was amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. Any comments from the board? Selena?
That was a beautiful presentation. And as someone who had a daughter who just sang the praises of Miss Gabay. It was really nice to, Gracie still talks about you. It was nice to hear that too. So kudos to the whole team and to the instructor.
Anyone else? Well, good luck to the team. In April, we will be rooting for you. And thank you so much for an amazing presentation. Moving on, we have another one.
Hi, my name is Henry Ragnor, and tonight I'm going to be representing the Ridgefield Performing Arts. So, like a main question that a lot of people ask is like, what do we do in the RHS Theater Department? What is it? So we perform 3 full-scale shows each school year, a fall play, a winter play, and a spring musical. So the fall play we performed in November, the Bald Soprano, our winter play, we performed in January, and the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee is our current spring musical, which actually just opened last Friday. And it was really fun. It was such a fun show. If you were there, thank you so much for supporting us. And so this is what we do. And if you're wondering, someone actually created all of these posters. Emmett Joyce is our cover designer currently, and that is why they all look so beautiful. So you can go to the next slide. So what goes into making a show at RHS? So as you can see below, there's lots of pictures, lots to unfold. So let's start off with how many hours are spent rehearsing. Well, rehearsals can range from 3.5 hours to 7.5 hours a day. So I'll be at school sometimes till 9:30 or 10 p.m. practicing and rehearsing our show so it can be the best it can possibly be. I'm surrounded by such supportive staff, including Miss Cox, Mr. Haynes, Rico, our choreographer, Adam, our sound and lighting designer, all surround us and love helping us and guiding us through this long and rigorous process. I don't want to toot our own horn, but we have worked really hard throughout this year, especially through COVID and wearing masks and social distancing. We've worked really hard to adapt to that new environment and perform something new. So as you see below, if you see the top third picture, I'm actually the one in the white baker's outfit. That was our fall play All in the Timing, and the one on the bottom left was our fall play All in the Timing, which was a really great experience to perform again after having a full year of Zoom rehearsals, Zoom performances, all of that. And so the next question is, who helps make the show possible? Well, when you think of a show, you might think of just the 15 actors on stage performing for you, but it's so much more than that. There's a full sound and lighting crew that helps with every single show. They're seen on the second top and the third bottom row. Without lighting and sound, our shows would be just 15 actors in a brightly lit room. They make the show unique and possible, and we are so grateful for them. And then, of course, the costume and makeup designers, one of them, Ella Sigurdsson, is on the bottom right, helped design our awesome costumes. There are pictures of the spelling bee on the top left and right. And my costume, I'm supposed to be we're all kids, so we're all wearing these fantastic costumes that they all found. And so then the last question I have for this slide is, how can you get involved? Well, you can just audition for the show to be in the show. But if you want to get involved in tech, you just have to join the Google Classroom, check the rehearsal schedule, and show up, and you are automatically included. You are in. You can help out with sound, with tech, with props, with costumes, with makeup, with stage crew. There's so much room for everyone and so much inclusion, which is what makes the RHS theater community, to me, so amazing. So you can go to the next slide. So this is our rehearsal schedule for January. As you can see, it is a rigorous rehearsal schedule. Every day, 5 days a week, we're at school. And this is just like the beginning. The March calendar is even crazier. But it's all worth it for this amazing performance. I don't know if any of you saw Friday and Saturday's performances of the Spelling Bee, but it was really good to be up on that stage. And I heard a lot that our work paid off, which is really nice to hear. So you can go to the next slide. So also I wanted to talk about the RHS Theater Club, the company. So who is the company? What do we do? And how can you join? Well, how can you join? You just email Audrey Huff, who is the chairman of our club, or you can email Sherry Cox, who is the faculty advisor for our club. So what do we do? We're an after-school club that meets for an hour a day on every Monday, and we help raise money for the RHS Theater Department and help fund our shows, props, sets, all of that goes into the RHS Theater Department. So I included some posts of like our previous productions. So during COVID, obviously we had to shift a lot of that online, but the top post is our chairman, Audrey Huff, saying that there's a club fair and a lighting workshop after school. And so the lighting workshop was a 3-hour workshop for all students to explore tech in the theater and experience that new aspect of learning things. This has never really been offered, and it was actually really great because a lot of people turned out to learn how lighting works, what different kinds of lights there are. And it was actually really fascinating to see how that worked, because as an actor, I really never known that. And then last year we performed a online Zoom improv show. If any of you would like the link to that, I can more than welcome I can send it along. It was really fun. I personally wasn't in it, but it was a really fun experience. And our chairman, Audrey Huff, is the girl on the left in the pink shirt. So you could go to the next slide. So this is just theater at RHS as a whole. There's 3 theater classes, acting 1, acting 2, and advanced acting. There's also costume and makeup design, which is a class, and I believe there's film design now. And there's also lots of choral and band classes, which you can take too. So for me, as an RHS student, I feel that theater is my community. It is the place and the comfort place I can go to in school. If I'm ever feeling down, I know those people will help me feel better. I know they can lift my mood. They'll always be there, which is the most important thing in a community, is that you'll always feel that that person or that group will be there for you, which is really, really comforting. And as I said before, all of the faculty members are so caring and they care for you so much. So that's just really important. And then something just fun to add, I love to add this whenever I talk about it, is like, what can theater actually do for you? Theater helps with so much. Like when I'm studying for a test, I'm going to use all of that memorization I've used for theater. Like this fall play, I had to memorize a completely different language, which was definitely a challenge. And it's helped my public speaking 100%. Like speaking to adults, looking people in the eye, like talking to people I don't know, it's incredibly helpful. And most important of all, it's just a community I feel comfortable with. And this community has made me realize that I want to pursue theater in my life. This summer, I'm actually taking 3 summer college courses. I got into or accepted into the top 2 summer college program courses in the country, Carnegie Mellon Conservatory and NYU Tisch. Unfortunately, those programs don't fit with my summer schedule, so I'm unable to do them, but it was just really cool that I got into them. And I know that Miss Cox and her tremendous amount of skills in teaching helped me with that. So yeah, it's just really great. And then just one last thing, as far as awards go, this is just one award. We got nominated for 9 Halo Awards, which is all of the schools in Connecticut. And it's basically a competition to see what show is the best. We got nominated for Best Comic Female Performance in a Musical, Best Video Production, Best Specialty Ensemble, Best Chorus, which we won, Best Performance by a Dynamic Duo, Best Performance by a Cast, Best Male Standout, Best Female Standout, and Best Contemporary Musical. So it's just really great that our work is showing in these awesome awards. So I thank you all for listening tonight and giving me the opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Henry. $10 a ticket, still performing this weekend.
Come see us on Friday the 18th and Friday the 19th. I hope to see you all there, and maybe you'll even be an audience volunteer.
So
Sorry.
So Tina, if I may, I want to say to all of our students and our faculty members, thank you for coming out tonight and really just showing us when we talk about the whole child, sometimes that doesn't really resonate because they're just words, right? But then when you hear and you see the impact of those words and the programs that we offer our kids, it completely changes things, and they're so diverse in everything that they do, but we're appreciative for their hard work, but also for our faculty members, right, that are giving up their Sunday afternoons and their evenings. And you look at that schedule, and when you look at, quite frankly, the advisor stipends, it doesn't line up with all the work and effort that our faculty members, it's really a token, right, for all the work that our faculty members put into their programs. So proud of our kids and our faculty, and for our board for all the time and effort that you really put into supporting our budget that supports these programs.
Thank you. I'm just going to echo Dr. De Silva's comments. I have a child at RHS, and even I was, I'm usually not at a loss for words, but I was a little gobsmacked a little today of seeing the amazing diversity we have and the passion all these kids have. To echo what Dr. De Silva said, it is about the entire child, and it is just not about what they're learning at school. It's beyond school. It's a community. And I think all the kids who came in today, all these kids highlighted how much it's a community. RHS is a community. And I hope as we move forward, we can have more of these presentations, because I think it showcases all the wonderful work we do beyond our classrooms. So thank you to each and every one of you. I think I can say this proudly from the board, that we are so proud of everything that you do. We're so proud of our faculty. We really thank you all for being part of this tonight and sharing all your accomplishments. So thank you. And Henry, I will be there this Friday. I've heard you were amazing, so I will definitely be there. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Good evening. It was a great opportunity to let the kids shine. Thank you.
All right, moving on. Did Dr. Greenwood, let me know how the game goes.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you letting me have the kids share their passions. I am going to hop over to the last end of the game here, if that's all right.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, Dr. Greenwood. Thanks.
Right. Moving on to the next order of business, the approval of the minutes. Do you have a motion?
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of January 24th, 2022.
Do you have a second? Ken? Any amendments? All right. If no changes, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented on January 24th, please raise your hands. That's everyone. No abstentions. So moved. Rachel, do you have a motion for approval of the minutes for January 25th?
Yes, I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of January 25th, 2022.
Do you have a second? Ken? Any amendments? Amy?
Just wanted to say, it says that I was via phone, and
you were in person. You were
I was
by
via
Zoom.
Zoom.
Okay. With that amendment, all in favor of the motion? Anyone abstaining? Liz and Sean, okay, so moved. Thank you. Rachel, motion for the minutes of February 2nd.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of February 5th, 2022.
Anyone? Ken, seconds, thank you. Any amendments? Amy?
Same for this one. This one was the in-person one at Eastridge, and I was there in person, not via phone.
Agreed. All right. So the motion as amended.
Tina, one more amendment.
Yes.
Sorry. The second to last person who gave public comment, I believe the spelling of the first name is Milagros. We could check in Power School, but I think that might be the spelling of it. Yep.
Yep. Okay. Right. With those two amendments, all those in favor of this motion, please raise your hands. Anyone abstaining? Any noes? Tom abstained. So moved. Thank you. Rachel?
Yep. I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of February 10th, 2022.
Anyone seconds? Thank you, Ken. Any amendments to this motion? Or to the... Right. All those in favor? Anyone abstaining? Tom. Selena, you too, you were absent. Will you abstain from the February 10th?
Student meeting?
Yes.
February 10th? Yes.
Okay, so 2 abstaining, Tom and Selena. All those in favor? We just raised, sorry, I forgot that. All right, so moved. And the last motion.
I move that the Board of Education approve the minutes of March 8th, 2022.
Anyone? Thank you, Ken. Any amendments to this? All right, all those in favor? Do we have a quorum, Susie? We don't, right? We need 5.
Yeah, without Jonathan, I don't.
Without Jonathan, we cannot because the others were up. All right, so we will have to wait on this, Rachel. We'll do it next time when Jonathan is here.
We only saw 4. Yeah.
Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Moving on to the next topic of agenda, discussion and possible action items. First is the update on the 18 to 22 program.
All right, so good evening. Tonight we have Jessica DiValentino, both our special education teacher and our transition coordinator for the 18 to 22 program, and Dr. Shoa, who will be providing an update. Jessica is new to us, and I can just tell you that she has done an incredible job, and the feedback that we've heard from parents has been amazing, and that's a testament to Jessica and the work that she's done. So we're thrilled to have her tonight to provide an update, but I think I'm going to kick it off to Dr. Shoa first, and then lead into Jessica.
Thanks so much, Dr. De Silva. I just want to say to the board, we're grateful to all of you for allowing me and Dr. Hanaway and Ms. DiValentino another opportunity to highlight this amazing special education program. We're very excited to return to the Board of Ed occasionally and talk about how great our special education programs are, both in terms of our dedicated faculty and the wonderful work that we get to do with our kids. In this case, the work we get to do with some of our adults. Specifically, this program, which we are now calling the Ridgefield Transition Program, which is formerly known as the 1821 program and more recently known as the 1822 program, as the law has sort of adjusted our nomenclature, but wanting to give it a real branding and something that we could be proud of, we changed that name to the Ridgefield Transition Program, calling it what it actually is, and the great work that Ms. DiValentino does in that program in transitioning students who have IEP support needs beyond the walls of the high school going into post-secondary life. So without stealing any more of her thunder, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. DiValentino, who I'll just say really quick, we're so thrilled to have. She comes to us with a wealth of knowledge on all things transition, both in regards to how students transition from school to life beyond high school, but also the wealth of resources that we do have in the state of Connecticut and all the ways that she's able to connect our students and families to those resources. So without further ado, I will pass the mic on to Jessica, who will present her program.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for allowing me to be here today. So as Tony and Dr. De Silva said, my name is Jessica DiValentino. I'm our transition coordinator for the district, as well as the special education teacher for the newly named Ridgefield Transition Program. Next slide, please. So just to begin, I want to give an overview of what our transition service is. You can see I have kind of 2 names to my title, and so I encompass a lot of different things when it comes to transition services. So overall, transition services is goaled and focused at moving a child to whatever it is they want to do after graduation. So those post-school activities. In order to have good transition services, we want to make sure we're focusing on a student's strengths as well as their interest and their preferences. It must be a coordinated set of activities, not just one single activity. So it is an ongoing process, and it is focused on not just academic, but functional achievement. Transition services can include a whole bunch of types of experiences and activities. Just to name a few: direct classroom instruction with our general education curriculum, as well as our special ed curriculum, related services such as speech and language, counseling, OT, PT, community experiences, which I am going to talk about a little bit later. Our IEP goals, so our individualized education plan, those goals and objectives, we have specific ones in the 3 areas of transition, which are post-secondary education, vocational, as well as independent living, if it's appropriate for that student. We also focus on a lot of transition assessment. Without good assessment, we can't get good information or good data as to what the services are that that individual needs. And then the important part is transition services are for any student in special education ages 14 all the way up to 22, if that's what the PPT deems as necessary. Next slide, please. So that 22 piece is where I'm going to focus in on our 18 to 22 programming. So that is the newly named Ridgefield Transition Program. You might also see it be called Transition Only Services. So we have a few different names for it, but Transition Only Services are for students who have completed their high school graduation requirements. Typically, they enter transition services after their 12th grade year at Ridgefield High School, and it is a PPT-based decision. Transition only services doesn't have to be a set program or specialized program, but it just needs to be a coordinated set of individualized activities that supports a student's IEP goals. Transition only services must also ensure that the students are spending at least 80% of their time with non-disabled peers, and that typically occurs within the community. So transition programming is going to have very robust community-based experiences. Like I said, at the end of a student's career within Ridgefield High School, that's when they will enter into a transition program. And instead of receiving a diploma, we provide them with a certificate of completion. When a student does end their transition only services is when they will then receive their diploma, and it will have the date and when they officially exited from our Ridgefield transition program. Next slide, please. So speaking more specifically to Ridgefield Transition Program, it is located in a newly renovated portable space behind Veterans Park Elementary School. The reason being that we're right there is we're right in the heart of Ridgefield, so we can access the community on a regular basis. So as I spoke to earlier, transition planning has 3 areas that we include within the IEP design. The first being vocational or employment. The second, post-secondary education is absolutely required, and then independent living if appropriate. Next slide. For our Ridgefield Transition Program, I just put a few up here in terms of some of the community businesses and organizations that we currently utilize for vocational experiences. That's that first area of transition services. We have weekly job sites that our students attend on a weekly basis, either with a job coach or without, depending on what the IEP determines. As you can see, we have an array of different businesses that support our students on a weekly basis, where they go into their job site to learn entry-level employment skills and to really develop that skill set before they go off into the working world. We also offer shadow experiences, which are more higher level careers for students who are exploring what types of career paths they may want to enter after their transition program. And then we have a few different job sites that we are close partners with, but are just currently inactive due to having so many opportunities for our students and not enough students to fill it, which is a good thing.
Jess, if I could just add real quick, one that's not on the list that we do use regularly, because this is a smattering but not an exhaustive list, is actually our schools. We have students who, if they are interested in education, they may have a job site supporting one of our classrooms. And obviously it has to be an appropriate placement, and a lot of assessment happens through Jess in order to make that determination, but that has been the case as well.
Yes, thank you. And as Liz said, this is just a really broad overview of some of the businesses and organizations we have, definitely not all encompassing. And it's an ever growing list because we do base it off of students' interest as well as their strengths. So I am constantly looking for new businesses and organizations to support our program. Next slide, please. So the second area of transition, independent living. So within the Ridgefield Transition Program, we can touch upon a lot of the independent living skills within the community. So they tend to go hand in hand. So you can see here from money management to community or pedestrian safety to rec and leisure. We have a bunch of different businesses within Ridgefield that our students visit regularly to practice these skills within the natural setting. So we have a great relationship with Ridgefield Parks and Rec, in which our students practice health and wellness. They go there on a regular basis to maintain a regular exercise routine. We go to Stop and Shop for shopping in order to do cooking, some light cooking back in our space, as well as the Ridgefield Library. And then we do some fun things where we might go bowling, to the movie theater. We recently went to Norwalk Aquarium, and that's all for students to be able to demonstrate the skill of purchasing a ticket or the social interactions behind buying a ticket at the movie theater, as well as just learning about recreation and leisure activities within their community that they can get involved with after they graduate and exit from the public schools, or even after they leave us at 2:15. Next slide, please. So that third area of transition is post-secondary education. And a lot of the times when we think about post-secondary education, our minds go to college, 4-year university, 2-year. This also includes just lifelong learning for employment as well as independent living skills. So every single student will need to have post-secondary education goals within their IEP. And this is the third requirement for transition services. Specifically within the Ridgefield Transition Program, we focus on post-secondary exploration for students who are yet to be enrolled in any type of post-secondary education or looking to pursue further education. So we might take a tour of various institutes nearby. We just went to Naugatuck Valley today. We'll do research on different schools that students are interested in. We'll schedule informational sessions with their accessibility services to ensure that our students are aware of the accommodations that are available to them within their post-secondary settings that they're looking at, as well as provide guidance and support when they are applying for those schools. We also have students who are dually enrolled, in which they are currently attending college classes, and they're also enrolled within our program. And so students who come into our program on a part-time basis might receive support to make sure that they're receiving the accommodations within their courses, executive functioning, skill building, as well as developing self-advocacy. Next slide, please. So in my role as not just the special education teacher for our transition program, but as transition coordinator for the district, I oversee a lot of family planning. When it comes to transition services, this is key to ensuring a student has a successful and meaningful life beyond school. So there are state resources, community resources, and much more that our families and students need to be aware of. And so that's a big part of my role with families, and ensuring that they're aware of these resources, guide them through the application process associated with it, and ensure a seamless transition to whatever it is they may be going into. So just to name a few, we have DDS, which is the Department of Developmental Services. That's focused more for our individuals on the autism spectrum, as well as individuals with intellectual or cognitive developmental delays. We also have local resources here, such as Sphere. I'm sure you guys are very familiar. I've been working with Lori to kind of ramp up our collaborations with them and to ensure our students who are turning 21 are engaged with their programming, because they offer wonderful programming here in Ridgefield, and it's important that our families and students know that it exists and how to get involved so they can be involved in recreation and leisure type activities when they leave us. In addition to ensuring our families are aware of these resources, I also like to provide informational workshops on important topics related to transition, such as probate court, guardianship, conservatorship, benefits planning, such as special needs trust. It's a whole different world navigating for our young adults with disabilities. And so any information we can provide families, I like to provide that to them, hopefully on a monthly basis if we can get speakers in pertinent areas. Next slide, please. Outside of family planning, in my role as the transition coordinator, I do work with our high school as well as both of our middle schools. So some of the things that I'm currently doing are working with teachers and providing professional development to ensure that we're providing high quality and evidence-based transition services and practices, supporting families and students and our school staff with navigating the post-secondary world, as well as the supports for our 12th graders who are going on to college, technical school, trade school, things of that nature. Working with our school counseling department, a lot of the things that our school counselors tend to do go hand in hand with the transition services that our students are in need of and do receive through counseling. And so just trying to ensure a seamless collaboration between those two departments. Career and college informational presentations, as well as community experiences for our high school age students, whether it's a one-time job shadow, college or career type speakers of professionals in industry areas, as well as person-centered planning, which is more of an up-and-coming initiative here in Connecticut, where it's planning that's really focused on the person in the name itself, but it's a really targeted, facilitated workshop. There's different types of resources and tools that you can utilize to ensure person-centered planning. And that's something I've been trying to bring into our high school and middle schools. And then I already spoke to the professional development piece as well. Next slide. And other than that, I have my contact information up on the screen, and I am open to any questions that anyone might have. And if not, that's my contact information. Ask me when you think of it later. But thank you very much.
Jessica, we're just so lucky to have you. We really are.
Right.
I'm lucky to be here. Thank you very much.
Celine, I see your hand.
That was amazing what you do. I'm so impressed, especially with the family planning. It's just these people, we need that information so much. So I have one question about the program. Is it, now that it's 22, is the only difference is basically they have one more year before they age out? Am I right with that, or is there extra stuff that you didn't have in the program before? And please forgive my ignorance. My last one graduated 2 years ago, so.
No, that's all right. That's a perfectly valid question. So the law technically didn't change. It's how we interpret the law is what changed. So it was up through the school year in which an individual turned 21. But now it is up until their 22nd birthday on the dot. So we might have students who turn 22 November 11th. That's when they're going to exit, November 11th of this upcoming school year. So they will not see through an entire school year like they did if they were 21. However, it just ends now on their 22nd birthday. And that's if the PPT determines that they need to be in transition programming until 22. Some of our students would do a year of our transition program and then go on to whatever it is that they're going on to do next. And I don't know, Liz or Tony, did I answer that correctly and fully? That's my, okay.
Perfect, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. I was just a little curious about the timing, like if they had that year or the cutoff was exactly on their birthday. But that's basically the only difference in the program, right? It's just the age, that exact date.
Exactly. That would be the only difference.
Right. That's a lot of work. You're amazing.
Thank you.
We're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Tom.
Thank you. Just one question I had and one comment. First of all, I was a little late to the party with the students, but if you watch the students and the staff and the administrators, this is very impressive school system here. I hope everyone sees it, that you get what you pay for in many ways in life. And this is a really impressive organization. I had a question though for Ms. DiValentino. Let's say that hypothetical you gave, November 10th, age 22, you've reached the limit of the program. What happens with that student on their 22nd birthday? Is it just cold turkey? practically speaking, how do you handle that?
So that's why transition planning is so important and why it starts at the age of 14. So a lot of that family planning is going to come into play. Person-centered planning is going to come into play. That's why we want to make sure our families are aware of the community and state resources that exist. So when they do turn 22, it is unfortunately, yes, cold turkey on our end in terms of that's where it ends, and they do not receive services any longer through Ridgefield Public Schools. However, at that point in time, there should have been many, many discussions as to what is next, what is available to them, and really have a concrete plan as to what that's going to look like. So for some of our students, they have a very robust plan and they have great services available to them at the age of 22 into adulthood. But that's not always the case for all of our students. So we are just currently advocating for more post-school activities and resources that are available to all of our students, regardless of disability type. So for some students, there's a pretty, cut and dry kind of answer to that. But that's why transition planning needs to be so individualized and specific to ensure that there is something for them when they do turn 22.
The only other thing I would add to that is that Connecticut state regulations require districts to invite the agencies who are providing adult services to a student to their planning meetings like years in advance. Like it's a section on the IEP that you legally have to say, we made the effort to include them. Depending on how early we start inviting them, they don't come. They're not coming 4 or 5 years ahead of time, but within the last 12 months, sometimes 18 months, depending on the complexity of the program post 22, they will come. And that is the most seamless, that literally there's a handoff, and that's the whole intention. And we do that. But what I would encourage anybody listening, and this is what we've encouraged, please reach out to Jess, no matter how old your child is. If you think you need to plan for post-high school life, irrelevant of what you know right now, you don't need to know anything. You don't need a crystal ball. Please reach out to her, because the worst thing that can happen is you make plans that you don't need. But the state system is tremendously slow. And it can literally take years to kind of make the cogs in the wheel move. So please reach out to her, even if your child's in preschool and you don't know what you even want to know or what to ask. She will help you through the conversation.
Thank you for that. Ms. DiValentino, you are so impressive. I mean, you really are. And I can say when I first moved to Ridgefield, I'm dating myself, in the early 90s, what special education has come from then until now is remarkable. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? No one. I just want to echo what has already been said. Thank you. I mean, it's amazing. I said it before, we saw kids from the RHS and extracurricular, and this is just another part. It just, Tom said it well, it just highlights how amazing our school system is. And for everyone who's watching and talks about our budget all the time and, the monies, this is truly where it goes to the kids. And there are complexities to kids, the way they learn, how we teach them. It is beyond, it's just not a simple case of a child sitting in front of a desk and learning. So I truly applaud every one of you for all the hard work you do, for the way you take each child as an individual. And it's amazing what you do. And we're so blessed that we are part of this. And I hope that everybody remembers when it comes to budget discussion, if the Board of Finance is listening, I'm just going to plug that there. So thank you.
Thank you, Jess.
Thanks, Jess.
Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
You as well.
Moving on. Ken, did you raise your hand? Sorry, or that was, oh, sorry. Okay. Moving on. School calendar.
So Tina, with your okay, if I can just combine these 3 agenda items, because they actually do go together.
Yes.
So there's a little bit of reactiveness here, and then there's some proactiveness with the next 3 pieces that I'm going to discuss. So the first thing I'm going to do is have John Mansfield put up, good. This is the current calendar year. And the reason that I'm sharing this with you is we are reacting a little bit. There have been some weather events that are unusual, obviously, but maybe not so much for Ridgefield. 2 of which we had this past week, we had a windstorm that not only did it impact power, but it impacted our roads so much so that we couldn't get our buses by safely. There's always a chance that we may close, let's say 2 schools rather than all 9, but in this particular situation, it was impacting too many of our schools that we did have to close. And then we had a weather event, which I'll talk about in a minute. So responding to that a little bit, what we're looking here is this year's April 22 calendar. So next month, April 8th was a planned early dismissal day. We recognize that's also an extension of the holiday break and that there is likely to have some families that already have plans for that day, but we would like to make that 8th a full day. We've spoken to our teachers union with our administrative team. We believe that the events scheduled for the afternoon can be compacted into other opportunities for professional development, including our collab time, things like that. So we would like to make the 8th a full day. That means that for families who intended on taking that half day and perhaps going on holiday or spring break may have not planned to have that be a full day. So we recognize that. And so for families that have a planned event for the afternoon, that afternoon would be excused because we realize it's just a few weeks in advance. In addition to that, families would expect that the day before spring break, there's not going to be new learning, let's just say a new concept being taught on that afternoon. So that's one change to the calendar that I'm looking to propose this evening. So we'll stop there to see if there's any questions on that piece, and then I'll springboard to the other 2.
Anyone have any questions? Selena?
So it's already counted as a day, right? If you go for a half a day. So, I mean, are the kids going to really get that much more learning if we make it a whole day?
So we had a full day this past week that we lost. So we hope to bring back that extra 2.5 hours. So the answer is yes, we'd like to bring it back as a full day so that kids have that extra opportunity that they missed this past week. It's not ideal because families may have already had planned events, and we recognize that. And so for those families, we'll obviously adjust and excuse for the second half of the day. For our faculty and for our kids that would benefit from the extra time, it gives our faculty opportunities to differentiate, pull small groups, kids that may have needed an extension. So from our perspective, we'd like to bring it back. We had conversations with our teachers union. They felt that we could use the time as well. So that's why the proposal's there.
Any other, Selena, do you have another follow-up question?
I'm trying to see the color code and see if teachers were planning on being there anyway. Is that a
teachers? Yes. So Selena, teachers were planning. So it's one of these, we have a monthly, generally speaking, a monthly scheduled early dismissal for faculty collaboration time and professional learning.
So it won't impact their travel plans?
No, not faculty. If anything, it would be right. Our teachers were planning on working the full day. And we could have we had one planned for the week of the early dismissal, but it was too last minute. You heard our teachers union speak tonight about the collaboration that we had with our teachers union on work around mental health. And we felt that was important. That was already planned. So we did not make that shift, but we felt like we could make it for April 8th. Again, recognizing that some families may have plans, but our faculty was expected to work the full day.
Well, and if you said you would give them you would excuse the absence anyway, knowing, right?
So it wasn't a full day. So some families would have been dismissing early. So if they were still planning on dismissing early that day, the afternoon would be excused, not the full day.
No, I understand. Like if you had a plane to catch or something,
correct. Yeah. And again, as I said, I think it's a great opportunity for our faculty to do some of that differentiation work. It's unlikely that faculty on a day before spring break would start a new concept. So families that were planning on leaving early in the afternoon would not miss that. We wouldn't want our kids to miss a new concept in physics, but my guess is no one would be doing that right before spring break either. Anyway.
Any other questions?
Okay, so that calendar is responding a little. but in an effort to be proactive, a calendar that was already approved by the Board of Education, which is next year's calendar, I'd like to make a small adjustment there, or I'm recommending to make a small adjustment there. And John's going to pull that up. But looking specifically at the month of February, so we heard tonight, one of our family members at least saying, hey, can you take a look at the month of February? And we are making a slight adjustment there. So for those families, this does not impact staff at all. So for those families that already have their flights for next February, I admire you, and like really admire. And we would certainly, for anyone that may have been impacted by this change, again, I think it's going to be a very, very small population of families that may have already scheduled their holiday for next year. So I think we'll work with that small population. But one of the recommendations that we're making here is that you'll notice the February 17th on this calendar is so February 16th, let me start there, is an early dismissal day for students. And it is a similar schedule that I was just describing on April 8th, where our faculty would still be working the full day, but our students would be dismissing early. The 17th is a full day for faculty members also. It's a professional learning day. So in theory, that day would not be a day, not in theory. In actuality, that day is not a student day, but it is a faculty day. So the 16th is a full faculty day. The 17th is a full faculty day. Students are dismissed on the 16th and then return on the 27th. So they have a full week plus the day. So what we'd like to do is move that staff development day, which is a contracted day for our faculty. So they have to work it. Instead, we're going to move that professional learning day to June. We also spoke to our union leadership about that. So we're going to move that professional day to June, gives us an opportunity to kick off any work that might be happening in the summer months, curriculum work, and or, excuse me, and or giving, setting the stage for work that might be happening for the fall. So for example, this year, let's say it was this year, for elementary teachers, we might be introducing that new math program, right? Or the new phonics program. So we're recommending that the 17th be moved to the end of the year. It shortens the student year by a day. And then the 16th becomes that early dismissal day, but instead of the 16th, it becomes the 17th. So let me try that one more time. 16th, an early dismissal day, is now actually the 17th. So the 17th day is an early dismissal for students, full day for faculty. Our professional learning day goes to the end of the year and shortens the school year for students by a day. So June 15th would be the last day for students. So let me stop there and take any questions, because I'm sure that was a little bit of a Tetris trying to explain that.
Anyone questions? Sean?
Sean, I think
I think I've got it. I think June 15th is hopeful that we don't have a winter like we've had this year.
Yeah, so that probably won't happen June 15th, but it's still going to be a day shorter than it is now. And I think it's an ample time for February break for families. That's plenty. And from a professional development side, I think philosophically, there's a lot of different perspectives on that. Some people would say to you, professional learning, earlier in the year is better. Others would say it sets the stage for the following year. I think we could have debates on that from different points of view, from now until forever, but they are still getting that early dismissal day in February. So they still get some professional learning time. So it's not like they're going a whole month without, and it shortens the year, regardless of snow days. That's going to change things, obviously, but it's a day.
Anyone? Sean?
Yeah, just one redirect. The remote learning days. I know the traditional snow days, it's wonderful, and being able to have an old school snow day is always a good thing. But have we, as the state, given any more guidance and clarity on how we can do remote school days and get credit for those?
So that is part of the conversation that they've had. I think Liz alluded to the Cave on the Hill. One of the I think that that is a potential possibility of allocating a number of days per for school districts to use for some flexibility, whether it's snow days or, I don't know that it would have worked out with the power day that we had last week, but let's just say the tree was down and not the power. That would have been a great opportunity for one. So I think that there is conversation, Sean, around giving school districts flexibility around that. Not necessarily even COVID related, but again, going back to, our kids did learn a lot technologically. And I think that giving kids an opportunity to work in a different modality on occasion isn't necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying 5 days, but I think a couple of days makes sense. So we'll see.
Yeah, I know there's accessibility challenges and all sorts of other things, but that we have to reconcile. But a once in a while thing, it doesn't sound like it'd be terrible as long as we can get it counted.
Yeah. Yep. And if families knew that that might be a possibility and they could plan for that in advance, obviously, I think that's a better thing when it comes to accessibility.
Agreed.
Any other questions? Susie, just to clarify first, so the 16th February 2023 will be a full day for students, right?
No, the February 16th, 2023 will be an early dismissal day for students. The 17th will be an early dismissal day for students, and it will not be a full day of PD for faculty. That'll be at the end of the year. June 15th will be the last day for students, obviously without discussing snow, and the 16th for faculty.
Okay. So 16th and 17th are both early dismissal?
No, just the 17th.
Just the 17th. So the 16th is full day for students.
Yes, I'm sorry, I may have confused that. Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. It was just because that's where I got confused. The
Yes.
16th is full day, and that's moved to the 17th, and 17th will be early dismissal. Okay, that's the shift.
Got it.
Okay.
Yes, you got it. Sorry about that, Tina.
That's okay. Any other questions? Rachel, did you raise your hand or, sorry, okay. Anyone else? Okay, Susie, do you want to talk about extended?
So in the spirit of confusing schedules, let me just talk about one more. Again, in an effort to be proactive, one of the things that I learned about Ridgefield is that we do offer 2-hour delays here and we offer 3-hour delays here, but we actually only have one early dismissal schedule. That's been the practice here for, I think, for many years. At one point, and I don't know who's, maybe perhaps some of you who have had children who graduated, at one point there was a different type of schedule, but I guess there was some confusion around that second early dismissal schedule. And so it was taken away. That said, when I came just about a year or almost 2 years ago, I brought up the idea of that schedule. And I guess it was at that time or 2 years ago, the history of having had one and it not being really clear for families and confusing, we let it go. I'm bringing it back because let me explain the complexity. And I'll speak about this most recent weather event. So the most recent weather event, where we had an early dismissal, you may have noticed that I actually was probably the last superintendent to call the early dismissal. And the reason that I was the last superintendent in the area to call the early dismissal, because we were receiving reports that the weather was intended to be slushy. That was the word that was being used to describe. And the timing of that storm, just from my perspective, I thought perhaps we could get the day in. The challenge that we face in these events is there's a couple of them. Obviously, we have teen drivers at the high school. That's one challenge. And second, we have schools that dismiss quite late. So we have 3 of our elementary schools that actually don't get our students home until some students close to 5 p.m. So when I received my 7:30 update on the weather, at that point, I felt pretty confident that I had to make a change and I had to dismiss early. That said, I have to make that decision by about 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's hard because at 9, I have to make it by 9 because we obviously have to give families enough notice, especially, for our high school families that dismiss by 10:30, but we also have to give our transportation providers enough notice. And so with that in mind, I came back to the idea with cabinet in our leadership team of having an extended early dismissal. Gives us a little bit more time to make the decision. And also with the weather event, for example, on Thursday, we could have still dismissed kids earlier, but not as early. And so in the weather event Thursday, I think it was, that particular day, I don't regret the call. I think the call was the right one to make. However, it didn't really become problematic until about 3:30. And so this would have given us a little bit more time. I would have still probably had to make the call, but kept kids an extra hour. So what you're going to notice on the schedule that John just put up here, the 2-hour delay is the same one you always have known. The 3-hour delay is the same one you've always known. The early dismissal is the same one you've always known. And now, for lack of a better way to name it, the next one, extended early dismissal. And Sean, I can see you looking. If you can find another name, I'm very agreeable.
Yeah, we need someone with a good acronym. That doesn't even make a good acronym.
All right. So you find a good name, a good acronym.
I think we need to crowdsource it. Put it out to the parents.
You're probably right. I put it up to my team, and I think I gave them until today or maybe Sunday to give me a new name, and crickets. So what this does is it gives us an extra hour, really. So instead of having to make that call at 9 o'clock, I now have until about 10 o'clock. Instead of sending kids home at 10:30, I've kept them until 11:30. It's not perfect. I don't think I'm going to find a perfect schedule, but it gives us a little bit more time. And if the weather event isn't going to happen, let's say till 3 or 3:30, I can get kids home safely, but still give them an extra hour of school. And so the issues with confusing schedules are probably still going to be there. So the best that I can do is make sure that in all my communications, I include this schedule so that families know which schedule to look at. Or I can highlight the one in yellow that says EED or whatever it's called. But nonetheless, really what I'm proposing, and it's not so much a proposal, but rather I'm sharing with you all, is a schedule that I think would be helpful to keep kids in, if nothing else, an extra hour in school, and to give us an opportunity to make that decision a little bit later than we're required to make it now. And certainly, again, if anyone has feedback on the names of these, I'm glad to shift. But I think it's important that we have some more flexibility, especially with the way Ridgefield is topography-wise.
Sean, I can't see everyone. Sorry, yeah, go ahead.
It's okay. So I guess late early dismissal would be too confusing. So I'll leave it up to somebody to be wittier than I am. It's a great idea, given that we know there's a lot of these that are right on the edge of a knife, deciding what we're going to do. I've been on those calls myself. So have you. So having that extra bit of leeway, I think, is a great idea, bringing it back, and we should be able to figure this out.
If it makes you feel better, late early dismissal did come up.
We tried superlatives. The earlier, earliest, didn't work.
Later, latest.
Anyone else? Sorry, I can't see everyone's screen, so I'm going to scroll through. Tom.
I'll throw out a name suggestion, but feel free to object. Midday dismissal.
The 11:30 may throw that off a little bit. If someone, I think that one actually, Tom, may have been thrown out too. I think someone even suggested change the 11:30 so that they could use midday. I think.
Yeah, make it 12. Make it 12 and then call it.
I think that's what someone.
We don't have half day, and Karen Dewing will correct me anytime there's an early dismissal and I call it a half day.
Yes, I will.
Yep.
And so again, the high school is 11:30, but not the other tiers. So we have before noon and afternoon dismissals. That is the complex nature to this. And yes, it's not a half day.
Selena?
So we actually had this schedule when I think my twins were in school. I think we had a 2-tier schedule, and I think I liked it. I think my only concern was the staff getting home safely. Because if you do like and that's just something to look at. If you do a later early dismissal, you know, just to be aware that some of them live up north. And I think we tend to think, you know, just of the parents. And I know that's just our job to consider our district, but I do always think about if the teachers have to travel a good bit, just to be aware of that if we have an incoming storm or something like that.
Yeah, that's fair, Selena. I think one of the things that for all of us to keep in mind is for some of our kids, they could be on a school bus 30, 35 minutes, 40 minutes, just as long as it takes for, let's say, me or a teacher to get home. And, you know, that is sometimes the concern. And I recognize it's hard for elementary families, for sure, you know, to change their schedules last minute too. It's, you know, there's no easy answer here. And, you know, and to be honest, I balance very carefully wanting to give people notice, right? Like, do I make the announcement early, or do I just wait a little bit longer to see if maybe I can get them in? And that's actually what I did Thursday, is that most people called, you know, in our region, at least, they called it at 5:30. I pushed myself to say, maybe I can get them in, and then ended up having to make the call. And of course, for the elementary families, for those families that are working, they can't just leave their littles home alone. And so they have to reconfigure their entire schedule. And for some of them, that's hard to do at the hour in which I may call it. But the reality is sometimes I'm going to have to do that, because if I can, you know, and there's no meteorologist that has a perfect crystal ball. So, you know, I don't want to judge them either, but when you're hearing slushy at 5:30 in the morning, that's hard for me to make that announcement at 5:30 in the morning, you know, especially when we just had the day before off because of wind, when no one else did. Literally no one else did. So, you know, it's a little bit of a balancing act, but it buys me a little bit of time, and it buys kids a little bit of time when it's appropriate to do so. Sometimes we're going to have to use that early dismissal schedule because the timing is such that that's when they need to go home. But other times, if we're able.
Anyone else? Okay, I think this is a great idea. I do applaud the fact that you're thinking outside the box, especially in Richfield, which I've learned, I'm sure many of us have learned, is a subclimate in itself. You never know, you know, as you said, we just have our own little things, we lose power. So I do appreciate this, thinking outside the box and being adaptive to the needs. So thank you. If there are no more questions, Rachel, do you want to read the motion?
Sure. I move that the Board of Education approve the change to the 2021-22 school calendar by making April 8th a full day of instruction instead of an early dismissal day for students.
All those in favor, please raise your hands.
Do we have to second it?
Yeah, oh, sorry. Ken, are you going to second? Of course.
Sure.
All right. All those in favor? Tom? Tom, are you yes? Okay, thank you. All right. Unanimously. Thank you. So moved.
And then do we need to do a motion for next year's calendar as well? Yes? Okay. What about, I move that the Board of Education approve the changes as presented on 3/14/22 to the 2022-2023 school calendar. Would that be okay, Dr. De Silva? Yes.
Ken seconds. All those in favor? It's unanimous. Thank you, Rachel.
Okay.
An update on the Board of Education timeline. I think it was shared with everyone. Dr. De Silva, do you want to talk about it?
Sure. There's really, it's just a draft of the second half of the year between now and the end of June, in terms of just giving the board a heads up about some of the topics. I think it's just important to know that it's meant to be fluid. And sometimes we look ahead and say, oh, we're not ready for this, but we're ready for that. But that's really all this is. I don't know that I need to share any more than that. And as always, if there's topics that aren't on here, please share them with Tina or Jonathan, and we'll see if it makes sense to get them on.
Yeah. I'm just very quickly going to highlight that the meeting, our next, the Board of Ed meeting, instead of happening on the 28th of March, will instead happen on the 29th. And that's because the 28th is a Monday, but it's a Board of Finance public hearing. So just for everyone listening and for the board to keep that little date change in mind. Thank you. Moving on, policy. Rachel, do you want to go ahead?
Oh, sure. Thank you, Tina. So good evening, everyone. So our first policy to review this evening is 5131.911, bullying prevention and intervention. This policy has been updated per the Shipman and Goodwin Model Policy Full Update of 2021. This policy was last revised in 2015. And it's also a required policy as noted by CABE in their July 2021 update. The red line changes, as you see before you, as per the Shipman and Goodwin update, provide revision to conform with Public Act number 19-166 regarding bullying and safe school climate. It went into effect July 1st, 2021. The law changed the definition of bullying and school climate. It added new statutory definitions and expanded on the parental notification requirements surrounding acts of bullying. Shipman and Goodwin also has revised this policy to reflect a board statutory obligation to post training materials for school administrators and a plain language explanation of rights and remedies under Connecticut General Statutes 10.4a and 10.4b. Shipman and Goodwin has also revised this policy in light of Public Act number 21-95, which identifies additional individuals who must serve on a safe school climate committee. So the purpose of this policy is noted in paragraph 1. It says the Richfield Board of Education, the board, is committed to creating, promoting, and maintaining an educational environment that is physically, emotionally, and intellectually safe, and thus free from bullying, teen dating violence, harassment, and discrimination. As a committee, we are recommending the addition of the word promoting in the first sentence. In the third paragraph going down, it reads, students who engage in bullying behavior or teen dating violence shall be subject to school discipline. We do have a student discipline policy, and that is up next for first read, and that would be just to update the definition of bullying to match this policy as per state law. Further, the definition of bullying has been revised. Bullying means an act that is direct or indirect, severe, persistent, or pervasive. It causes physical or emotional harm to an individual, places an individual in reasonable fear of physical, emotional harm, or infringes on the rights or opportunities of an individual at school. If you move down on page 2 to paragraph 4, I just want to point out that it does say, consistent with the requirements under state law, the board authorizes the superintendent or designee along with the Safe School Climate Coordinator to be responsible for developing and implementing a safe school climate plan. Also, as you read further, numbers 1 to the new 18 are directly from Public Act 19-166. It's actually General Statute 10-222D. Going up the page on page 2, I forgot one thing. I just wanted to point this out. So cyberbullying, the definition hasn't changed, but just for board members' knowledge, we do have a policy on cyberbullying and the definition does match. And that's policy 5131.913. Moving on to page 3, if you notice there is addition on number 8. That is the change as per Shipman and Goodwin to reflect a board statutory obligation. On page 4, you will notice a lot of terms being used, and I just wanted to make sure that we all knew about this. So when they talk about school-sponsored activity or hostile environment or a school climate plan, those are definitions that are all defined in the regulations of this policy. So it is there in the regulations. And on the last page, that last new paragraph, the green that is there, that's not new language, but the green language is actually the old number 19. So we just wanted to make a point of that. Are there any questions with this policy as a first read? I can't see everyone, Tina, so if you see someone.
There's no one. Oh, Liz.
Yeah, I have one question, and it's pretty far down in the policy, and it actually might be forget it, it's 5114A. So I'll wait, I'll hold.
Oh, on the student discipline policy, Liz? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I can wait until we go through this one.
Anyone have questions for the 5131.911? And this is first read, so it'll come back.
Right, so thank you, everyone. So this will come back next time for a first read. So next policy up for first read is student discipline 5114. As previously mentioned, this policy is before you this evening for a first read, just to revise the definition number 32, bullying, to match the new state law definition as per the first read of policy 5131.911. Any questions? Liz, did you had a question?
I do. So in 5114, let me just look at what section. It looks like it is 5114D, section 3. Excuse me, 5114E. And it's number 9. So it's on page, there's no page number on here, but it's 5114E, and then the number is 9. And it talks about how the actions leading to disciplinary action. And number 9 is a walkout or sit-in within a classroom or school building. And I know this is language that was there, but I just wonder if the policy committee discussed the inconsistency with some of the publicized walkouts from RHS that were sort of sponsored and approved. And I don't know if that is different than this, or what, if you guys even had a chance to talk through that.
Sure. No, thank you for your question, Liz. So we did just bring this policy forward just to update number 32, bullying. But of course, if there's a question on another part of this policy, perhaps the administration could answer your question.
So let me just, for some reason, my packet does not have, is yours the same way? Mine is missing.
Yeah, I don't have a packet either.
Yeah, I don't
it's
have
probably a hard copy.
My hard copy doesn't have it. So let me just pull it up electronically
I
here.
mean,
Electronic copy, page 37.
Thank you, Sean.
37, Sean?
37.
No.
Take me a minute to get there.
Yeah.
Okay, on 5114E, Liz?
Yes, number 9. It's oh, so.
So your question is whether or not a school supported walkout would be treated differently?
Yeah, I'm referring to that. I think it was the safe school walkout, they called it. It was pre-me, but at RHS, there was a walkout related to responses to, I think it was gun safety. And that would be a opportunity for discipline under this policy.
Well, I think the language of may lead, and if it was supported by again, it predates me also, but my prediction would be that if it was supported by the administration, then it would not fall under this policy, because I think you have the ability to say that it was not, right? This was, it was a school sponsored walkout or agreed upon walkout. And I think that language of may likely, would indicate to us that in that particular situation that it was appropriate, and I'm assuming, again, it was appropriate and approved.
Yeah, I just want to, this one there's a lot of school walkouts happening now over the last year or so. I mean, we've been teaching activism and social engagement for students for years. And so a walkout is a valid form of expression. So I just want to be really careful. I mean, I'm reading headlines all the time of various student walkouts. So this one may be one we want to take back to the policy committee and reconsider the language on. I know we've had one, but other schools right now are having, I mean, I can cite 3 or 4 different examples in the last couple of months. So just something to consider.
So I think we did review this recently. We didn't review it this time in its entirety. We were just bringing it forward for the definition of bullying update. But I'm trying to see, when did we, wasn't this past fall?
When the policy was revised?
Yeah, I'm just looking for the date. I thought it was. Yeah, October 12th, 2021.
So, I mean, certainly, I think if we're looking at the policy as a whole and trying to see whether or not language still is in line since it was just approved, I think that's a different question. But when I think about disruptive to learning process and whether or not, if the circumstance is such that the administration of the high school or any other school for that matter has said we are not allowing a walkout and the students continue to, then there may be disciplinary action. So I think that's why the language is there. It doesn't mean that there aren't events that our kids are passionate about and that they typically will go to the administration and say, this is something we care deeply about and we feel like this is our way in which to support this topic or this issue, and the administration would approve it. But I think it's there so that in the event that it is disruptive and the administration has not approved it, that it's clear that a disciplinary action can happen.
And there may be things where the students and administration disagree. And so we just want to be clear that the students shouldn't be socially activists against the administration's permission.
Right.
There's a little bit of incongruity there for me. So just as a point of reference.
Fair.
Any other questions on definition? Okay, so thank you, everyone. So these will both then come back for a second read. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel.
Yeah.
Almost to the end of the agenda. Rachel, we're back to public comment.
Okay, let me just talk. All right, we have no public comment at this time. So I will go on to the correspondence report. So correspondence report, we have received 11 emails since our last Board of Education meeting. 6 emails provided feedback for board members and/or board discussion. 1 email regarding in-person meetings. 1 email providing negative feedback on February break. 1 email regarding professional development days in light of snow days. 1 email regarding early dismissal on 3/9, and 1 email regarding access to Google Docs.
Thank you. Right. We're at the end. Do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting? Second, Selena, thank you. All those in favor? So adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Have a good rest of your